Okay. looking very much like a Florida man. All right, I'll call this meeting of the State Board of Elections to order. First item of business is I would ask non-participants to mute their lines, and the secretary will call the roll.
Yes.
Day of
Chairman
registration.
Present.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Present.
Delegate Merrick.
Present.
Angela Chang. Present. And Secretary Alvis Long, present.
We have a quorum, 4 in person and 1 virtually. In addition to the members of the board, we also have the commissioner, and from the Office of Attorney General, Travis Andrews and Josh Lee. At the conclusion of today's meeting, the board will go into closed session to receive the advice of counsel. Before we go into closed session, the board will receive public comment on items not on today's agenda. Without objection, members of the public will be heard for 3 minutes and are welcome to submit statements for the record or any questions seeking additional information on matters on the agenda to info@elections.virginia.gov. On our agenda today is certification of the special elections of January 10. Without objection, I'd like to take one certification out of the block and consider it now. This is the 7th Senate District special election. Mr. Saunders?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the Chairman said, on January 10th, the City of Virginia Beach and Norfolk conducted a special election to fill a vacancy in the 7th District of the Senate of Virginia. Upon completion of that election, local general registrars entered election data into Ferris, and in accordance with the law, conducted their canvass and provisional ballot meetings to ascertain the results of their elections. Upon completion of canvass, they forwarded their certified abstracts to the department. Elect staff has reviewed those abstracts and checked for errors and has accepted the ascertained results as presented to us. Therefore, elect staff recommends that the board certify the results of the member of Senate of Virginia 7th District special election and declare Aaron R. Roush the winner and sign the certificate of election.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Do the members have any comments or questions of Mr. Saunders? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion that the board certify the results of the Senate of Virginia 7th District election at the January 10th special election.
Mr. Chairman, after reviewing the abstracts of votes cast in the January 10th, 2023 special elections for member of the Senate of Virginia 7th District, I move that the board certify the results as presented and declare the winner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any additional comment? If not, the secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang. Aye. Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. The reason we're doing this is that apparently the member-elect is in the back of the chamber trying to get his hand raised, and so we're going to sign and transmit as quickly as possible. The next order of business is approval of the minutes from our meeting of December 5, 2022. Do the members have any corrections to the minutes as presented? If not, Secretary Alvis Long.
Yes, is there a motion then to approve those minutes from the December 5th, 2022 board meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang. Aye. Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Our next order of business is the Commissioner's report. Commissioner Beals?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the board. First, I wanted to start today with a big thank you to the registrars and electoral boards and officers of election of the following localities for their work in the January 10th special elections: the City of Virginia Beach, the City of Norfolk, Fairfax County, Amherst County, Augusta County, Bath County, the City of Buena Vista, City of Lexington, and Rockbridge County. Each of these registrars' offices had to work through the holidays to get these elections set up, to test their voting machines, and to offer early voting, including offering voting on New Year's Eve, and we thank them for their dedication to their voters. I also want to thank the departing electoral board members that we have who are left us as of the end of December. Many of them served faithfully for many years, and we are extraordinarily grateful for that time and effort that they put into the running elections in the Commonwealth and to their duties. We also hope that they all will sign up as officers of election now, that they are free to do so. And with that, I also wanted to welcome the new 133 electoral board members that we just gained in Virginia, who have joined electoral boards this month. We look forward to meeting with you and working with you in the months and years to come. You have an extremely important job, and we thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity. We have several training opportunities for our new electoral board members coming up this year. The first one is coming up on February 4th, and we just want to encourage you to check out the Virginia Electoral Boards Association. They're going to give you more information on training opportunities, and their annual conference is coming up in March, so we encourage you to get engaged with them. We do have, finally, several more special elections coming up here shortly. On February 21st, we have the 4th Congressional District election, which involves, I believe, 14 localities. Also on February 21st, we have a special election in Prince William County for a member of their Board of Supervisors. We also then have a special election on March 7th that's already scheduled for the King William County Treasurer, and we see into the future that we may have more special elections to come this year, probably starting in April. So it's going to be a very busy year for us with special elections. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Beals. Do the members have any questions of the Commissioner? If not, the next item on our agenda is certification of the remaining 2 special elections of January 10, 2023. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. An additional 7 localities conducted special elections on January 10th for fill vacancies in the 35th District and the 24th District of the House of Delegates. Upon completion of those elections, general registrars entered their election data into Veris, and in accordance with state law, conducted their provisional ballot meetings and their canvasses to ascertain and certify their election results. Upon completion of their canvass, those localities, their general registrars forwarded their abstract of votes to the Department of Elections, and elect staff has checked for errors and accepted the ascertained results as presented to us. Therefore, elect staff recommends the board certify the results as presented and declare those winners for those 2 special elections.
Thank you. Do the members have any comments or questions of Mr. Saunders? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion that the board certify the results of the House of Delegates 35th District and House of Delegates 24th District elections on January 10, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, after reviewing the abstract of votes cast in the January 10th, 2023 special elections for member of the House of Delegates 35th District and member of the House of Delegates 24th District, I move that the board certify the results as presented and declare the winners.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board certify the results of those 2 House special elections. Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Without the pressure of having to run this certification up the hill, we'll defer signing until after the meeting. Our next item of business is the request for a split precinct waiver for Chesterfield County. Ms. Scott?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you know, the Code of Virginia authorizes the State Board of Elections to grant a waiver to administer a split precinct if the governing body of the locality is unable to establish a precinct with a minimum number of registered voters without splitting the precinct. The locality must reapply every year for a split precinct. Previously, last year, Chesterfield County requested the same split precinct for the Benito precinct 402 and the Clover Hill precinct 412. This was approved by the board in April of 2022, and considering the application presented, neither precinct has the requisite 100 registered voters. Staff recommends approving Chesterfield County split precinct waiver request.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Scott. Do members have any comments or questions of Ms. Scott about the Chesterfield application? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? All right. In that event, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the split precinct waiver request.
Mr. Chair, I move that the State Board of Election approve the split precinct waiver for Chesterfield County pursuant to Section 24.2-307.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the secretary call the roll?
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon. Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion is approved 5-0. The next item of business is a report on the recently concluded risk limiting audit. Ms. Hoyt-Stewart and Ms. Scott.
Right. Pursuant to 24.2-671-.2, the Code of Virginia, ELECT is required to coordinate a pre-certification risk limiting audit of the ballot scanning machines in the Commonwealth. ELECT announced the successful completion of that audit on December 1st and presented the results to you at the December 5th board meeting. The results confirmed that 99% confidence of the machines accurately reported the results of the race. In addition to that, the code also requires us to do a our risk limiting audit report, and Claire Scott is a primary person of putting this together, along with Rachel Lawless and myself, and this report we're presenting to you today at this meeting. Any questions?
Thank you. Do the members have any questions of Ms. Hoyt-Stewart, Ms. Scott? Ms. Lawless isn't in the room, so she doesn't get any questions.
She's running up the hill.
Do the members have any questions? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item?
Yes, I have Mr. Nate Jones.
Yes, I've unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Mr. Jones.
Okay. For 2 years now, I've been speaking out against risk limiting audits. I believe they're misnamed. It's only a statistical representation with a very small sample. It's not an audit at all. And yet here you are with a 25-page report detailing how awesome the results were in one or two districts. These audits, as they're called, risk limiting audits, were developed by academics at Berkeley out in California. And even one of the originators has said they're not accurate for any type of confirmation of an election. And so I just want to go on the record once more as saying this is an absolute waste of time, waste of effort, waste of money. We need if we're going to have an audit, we need a real audit that's randomly selected after an election that looks into the entire election system, not just a few ballots pulled out of a box, run through a program called Arlo, which has been provided by another left-wing nonprofit, Voting Works, and then writing a 25-page report telling the public how great our elections are. We need to put trust back in our elections, and a great way to do that would be a real audit, randomly selected after the election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other member of the public wish to be heard on this item?
Mr. Chairman?
Dr. O'Bannon.
Yeah, I wasn't going to speak but I do want to thank Ms. Hoyt Stewart for this report. I've got a couple of questions which I'll ask later, but just want to remind everybody that the code governs these audits. And anyone who doesn't like them needs to talk to their representative who's meeting today.
Can I comment, please, on the risk limiting audit?
Okay, Dr. O'Bannon, is that your comment? All right, and we have an additional person on the line. Would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, sir. I'm Shelley Oberlander. I've spoken to you several times about a different option for the risk limiting audit. And so today I just want to disclose that I am one of the recently appointed electoral board members. So I'm now speaking as electoral board member from Loudoun County. And they're the county that asked for a risk limiting audit using the batch comparison method after the November 2022 election, which was not currently part of your policy, since you only allowed the ballot polling method. So I know there are people who disapprove of the risk limiting audits altogether, and I understand some of their concerns. But as Dr. O'Bannon said, the risk limiting audit is part of our state law right now. It's part of the code. So if you all could allow the batch comparison method to be an option for a risk limiting audit, I think people will be much happier and there'd be more meaningful results from these RLAs. And so that's my request. Our electoral board sent a letter to each of you as a newly reorganized electoral board, again asking you to please consider adding to your policy the batch comparison method. That would compare a batch of ballots, like from a precinct, to the machine tape, and would give some verification for the actual accuracy of the voting machine. So I saw in the report the only disadvantage that was stated was possible human error, but it is a relatively small batch. Many of us have done hand count tallies before. We've done it in our local elections. We've done it in some of our political elections. So we're familiar with the hand count. Our election office has volunteered to be a pilot program for trying out the batch comparison method. So please, if you could please vote to include the batch comparison method. I think it's a happy medium for those who don't like risk limiting audits at all. And I think for all, provide meaningful information and a good verification of the voting machines. Thank you.
Okay, could you identify yourself again? The connection wasn't all that it might be.
Yes, sir. My name is Shelley Oberlander. I've spoken to you before about the risk limiting audit, but I'm recently appointed to the Loudoun County Electoral Board. So I'm an electoral board member from Loudoun County.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Any other member of the public wish to be heard on this item?
Jack Fuller?
Yes, please. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the Prince William County Republican Committee Chairman of the Election Integrity Committee. And I just want to say I cannot support what Shelley has just said anymore, and the other gentleman and his disparaging comments about the risk limiting audit. Could not agree more. We need something that builds confidence, and that is not working right now. We have a problem in Prince William County. We use the Hart Verity system, and the vendor doesn't allow a test of the actual election drive. We've got to do a test on the test drive. So the drive that's running in the election has never been tested. And that's just one example of problems. So we want to have a way to compare the actual votes in the box with the tabulation of the machines. And I hope they'll all work out fine. But right now we have no idea. So I'd be grateful for you to consider Shelley's recommendation as a step in that direction. And then I have maybe comments later that I can go into about our proposal for random checks of precinct operations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you wish to, you can submit a statement for the record or any questions or additional information that you wish to provide to the board and the department at info@elections.virginia.gov. Any additional member of the public?
Elizabeth Block.
Ms. Block, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Elizabeth Block. I am the chair of the Prince William County Election Integrity Task Force, and I just want to briefly speak in support of having the option for the batch comparison method for the risk limiting audit. We have some frustrations. We've seen scanners have to be rebooted to operate here and there in our precincts, and that we all have computers. We know that can mean there's something wrong. It's just some other matters, and Mr. Fuller briefly mentioned those, and the batch comparison method would help us tremendously in verifying the accuracy of our elections. I think we're putting a little too much confidence in the technology, and we need more options available to our localities. I appreciate your time, and I'll follow up with an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Block. Any additional members of the public?
Chris Brown?
Hi, I'm Christine Brim. I'm the lead of the Election Integrity Working Group for the Republican Party in Fairfax, Virginia. And I want to also extend my support to everything that Shelley Oberlander of Loudoun said. This also is something that's been raised and is an ongoing discussion with our registrar, who is very much in support of some kind of batch processing approach as opposed to the current statistical sampling approach, and has even suggested maybe a random sampling of whole precincts, depending on how the law is interpreted. And I would like to suggest that the board consider proposals from counties. You've now heard from the three of the largest counties in the state, that perhaps a pilot project could be initiated in 2023 to attempt this batch processing approach to RLAs, and that would be feasible under the laws currently written.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Brim. Any additional speakers?
I have no more comments.
All right. Well, this is an information item, so there won't be a vote, but on behalf of the board, we appreciate the work that went into to this report. All right. Our next item of business is a series of actions under the stand by your ad provisions of the code. Ms. Alexander, I understand there are 12 instances that we're discussing.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Come on up there. I'm going to slide this. All right. Excuse me, I'm going to slide you over because they say they can never hear me. And Dr. O'Bannon, I am hurt that you're not here. I worked this list from 61 down to 12 just for you. Man. All right. I didn't expect to get to me so quickly. I was getting ready to nod off back there. All right. We have 12 presented to you today. Hello, everyone. How are you I was going to say this evening. It has been a long day. For print media, we have 11 items, and we have one under TV and video. These are the 12 that have reached the level to come before you. They have reached the level that they are an SBYA complaint and that they do have express advocacy. Let's go ahead and move on to the first one. Campaign committee for Renee Dial for school board.
Yes,
yes, sir.
Before we go on, do I understand that Ms. Dial asked that we defer
Yes, sir.
a consideration of this?
Yes, her reasoning for, let me see here, I have it right here. She would like a continuance, so her, I would like to ask for continuancing. I have documentation and witnesses for my rebuttal evidence in regards to these alleged violations. The continuance would allow for them to attend via Zoom or in person.
I'm not recollecting whether or not there is provision for...
There is a provision for continuance.
All right.
But the issue here is, in another document she sent me, said that her reasoning for needing the continuance is because she was misled by the local office about a yellow ballot. The complaint is not about the color of the ballot. It's the disclosure statement on the bottom, which isn't going to change whether they have witnesses or not.
Nevertheless, if she's requested continuance, I don't see any reason not to grant that.
Absolutely.
All right, do we need a vote on, to move that to a continuance, or what do we do with that? Never continued one before.
Without objection.
Without objection, I think.
Just continue it to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
we're just-
All right,
yeah.
thank you. All right. That brings us to Children Advocates for Ward 3, Mark S. Askew Sr. Mr. Askew is with us today. His complaint, the complaint against him was there was no disclosure on his sample ballots or the flyers that were handed out on Election Day, and there was also no disclosure on one banner. Mr. Askew is with us today.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and all in attendance. First, did you get an email? There was a Randy Walston that got a letter notarized, and he certified a letter to the fact that I had zero knowledge of the supplier.
Yes, sir, and I'm sorry, I've left that upstairs, that is in my bag.
I have a copy of it.
Excellent.
You can,
Thank you.
So I just like to let the board know that the two of the three issues I had no knowledge of.
Okay.
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 All right, yes, and I have read these. When, he does go on to say that Mr. Walston called Mr. Askew, and they spoke for quite a while, and then he created it. So then one would possibly argue that there might have been some coordination, but.
But wait, ma'am, if you read that, that is not an accurate depiction of his statement. When I first ran, he and I had a discussion via Facebook Messenger call.
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 months, 2 or 3 months in advance. He was calling me, I did not know him.
Okay.
He was asking to know things about me.
Okay.
That conversation lasted about an hour or so, and I never heard from Mr. Walston again until this matter. And
Okay.
he even states that very, very vividly and clearly in his certified response.
Anyhow.
Yeah,
Yes,
can
sir.
you share that with us?
Yeah. Would you like to go ahead and read it out? Yeah, that'd probably be easier.
And matter of fact, if you'll give me a second, I can go on my phone, I can tell you the exact date.
Okay. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Looks like the first conversation happened on September the 19th, 2022 at 3:41 p.m. He says, "Hi, my name is Randy. I'm a member of Ward 3. How can I get to know more about you?" And then on the 19th, he and I entered a phone call on September the 19th for 1 hour and 28 minutes.
That's right there.
There we go.
Got it.
It's all
Yeah,
here.
it's on,
It's all
Yeah, that's
here.
on the printout here.
He's a school teacher, a math teacher, he's very thorough. So I just want to be very clear, I had zero knowledge.
For these two items here.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
absolutely.
Which two items, the flyers?
the
flyers.
so
flyers.
the flyers were Mr.
Walton, yes.
Okay.
All right.
And to Mr. Walton's credit, I'd like to say this to the board and to everyone who is listening. I purposely ran a no money campaign because with 25 to 26% participation in our electoral process, which is pathetic, my purpose was to challenge the citizenry and the voters to engage in their own expression without being asked, without being paid, without being coerced. And Mr. Randy Walston, to his credit, jumped into action. And if more of our fellow citizens took the stance to get involved, our whole process would be night and day. So I applaud him. I don't condone the breaking of the law. I don't condone that. But I do condone that he took the initiative and that he cared enough about the process to go home, talk to his neighbors, use his ink, use his paper to do what he did.
So peaceful outside with his friends. Excuse me, I'm supposed to be on mute. Mr. Askew, your report said you spent $450 on flyers,
Yes.
but you said you had a no money campaign.
Well, I did. I mean, it was out of my pocket. I didn't raise any money. And I had to, and on those flyers, man, what we're talking about, sample ballots, is what I consider the flyers. I had 50 flyers that my wife and I, we went to Walmart, we bought the paper, and we used our brother printer to print them off. So certainly I had to have sample ballots. I had to. I mean, there was no other way to do it.
And that was not this flyer with this little sample?
Absolutely not, ma'am.
Okay.
I've already testified to that. Mr. Walton has certified that via notarized and certified mail.
So of the three items on here, the only one that
It is the banner, and
you're responsible
I like to share, there's a story behind this too.
All right.
Okay.
Can we hear your story?
So in this no money campaign effort, on election day, there were two banners. I stayed at one location all day long. I'm a proud graduate of 1985 Northview High School, and my printer did, I guess, meet the standard for the electoral board. Now, the flyer created a firestorm, and there was a Miss Atoy Carrington that came out to Northview Middle School and said there's a big hoopla about this flyer. I said, I don't know about the flyer. And she said, what about the banner? As you can see, I used string to tie this around the tree. Now, my wife is here, and she will bear witness. This banner was never presented without me physically or my wife being present. This banner was not on the highway. It wasn't stuck in the ground. It was always with me because that's all I had. So when Miss Carrington came out, she said there's a complaint. And look what she had me do. She said, I understand mistakes happen, but can you take an ink pen or whatever, and right there at Northview Middle School on election day, this is my handwriting, and she says, I can't assure you that nothing will happen, but at least it's up there now. And this remained tied around the tree all day long, with me there from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. to close, with me and my 12-year-old daughter, of which precinct we won, which was the largest in Ward 3. Okay, great. And I'd just like to say this. What I am disheartened, Board, about this is that I had left several messages with Ms. Tammy here about a complaint that I had filed in regard to misrepresentation at the polls. And for some crazy reason, after about 8 to 10 calls, leaving messages, and I also emailed in full description with a copy of that, I have heard nothing to the fact that my opponent, the incumbent, was saying that Bobby Scott, Congressman Scott, endorsed him. My wife, firsthand, spoke to Congressman Scott at church on Sunday. These were the words that Congressman Scott said. I supported Mr. Clinton, but I did not endorse him. Honorable Kenny Mayor Alexander is on this flyer, and I personally, and in my phone, I can document, he did not endorse him. So there are other individuals that may or may not have endorsed, yes. And this was given to the individuals that were coming in to vote. Now, Hampton Roads, along with myself Bobby Scott is beloved. He's like a superhero. So here I am, first-time candidate, no money raised, and I came within 800 votes of beating this candidate, and the Republican candidate said after the fact, who had the votes I needed, 893 votes, that he wished he hadn't run. But that's neither here nor there. But I would like to beg this board with the Attorney General representation. It is not fair for any candidate to claim endorsement without proof. If my daughter says, Daddy, I want to buy a car, will you co-sign for me? If she doesn't make that payment, I'm responsible. And I just beg this board, going forward, it's only a one sheet of paper, and Mayor Alexander even told me that when he asks for endorsement, he gets it in writing so that if this such thing comes up, he can prove it and document it. But I was mistreated. I reached out to the electoral board, and for some strange reason, I got a funny feeling here today because, one, all of my phone calls went unanswered. Number two, Mr. Walton made extra efforts to get that information here today, and all of a sudden, the information isn't before you. So I don't feel good. I feel that politics are at play when they should not be. I'm just a father of 4, a military veteran. My son serves in South Korea right now. My daughter is a presidential scholar, 2022 at Spelman. My wife and I of 21 years, I don't deserve this treatment. I don't deserve this treatment. I don't know what's going on in the back channel, but I want to be on the record today to say I feel mistreated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This item here, this does not fall under Stand By Your Ad. Endorsements are not something according to Stand By Your Ad, and it has paid for an authorized buy on it. That's why this was not brought before you.
All right.
And I just want to know, why wasn't I contacted? Why didn't someone contact me?
If you could make your comments as succinct as possible, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 3 items, 2 flyers and 1 banner. You've brought forth material suggesting that the 2 flyers are not of your provenance. As to the banner,
that would be when you get to the conspicuous. The complaint we have does not have the writing on the check mark, so the picture was taken prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the complainant the opponent?
Yes. Yes, sir. It's the gentleman who is on this flyer. So I would suggest we definitely take the 2 flyers off, and the banner, that is up to you if you feel that it was conspicuous, or I cannot see it on this particular thing that brought up, but this is, because this is his first time up, and it did not have issue, I would suggest that the recommended motion would go down to $25. That's if you're all unanimous about your decision. For a non-disclosure on the banner at the time this picture was taken.
All right, members have any questions, observations, motions?
Mr. Chairman, in all due respect, I believe this gentleman is sincere can be. I can't see finding him anything. I mean, that's just my opinion. I just think he got caught up in the fray, and being that his opponent is the one that bought I thought to myself, I think he's sincere as he can be. And, so I say we just let it go. I don't know how you do that, but.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, we proceed by motion, so
I make a motion that we dismiss the charges.
Second.
been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any additional discussion? Dr. O'Bannon with us?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't left out of this. All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we dismiss the complaint. Secretary will call the roll.
Yes. Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Askew.
And have that slide.
Absolutely. There you
That's my
go.
original evidence.
There you go.
All right.
All right, our second one, Mr. Daniels should be on the line with us. He had multiple complaints, but we only received one picture of one T-shirt. He is going to present to us today. He sent in a 24-page Word document, he said. And he uses the defense that Governor Youngkin did not have disclosure on his T-shirt, but if you recall, on August 3rd, 2021, Governor Youngkin paid for his non-disclosed T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I seem to recall that.
and promptly disclosed his T-shirt. So,
I did have a question about that.
Yes, sir.
T-shirts are not novelty items?
No, sir. If you read it, it says novelty items attached to wearing apparel. This is apparel, and it's the size of a lot of signs. And it's printed, so it's print media.
Okay. Mr. Daniels, are you on the line?
I am. I'm having trouble sharing the screen. I just want to say thank you for having me, and good afternoon to you guys. My presentation that I had was going through the code, and it was going through advertisements and definitions and everything as you guys just mentioned. And I don't want to say you stole my thunder, but we did model these T-shirts after Governor Youngkin's and Bob Good's T-shirts. We thought they were novelty items. I was at the our registrar's office today dropping off signatures, and I had mentioned this to her, and she said, "Oh yeah, I got complaints about that." And I said, "Well, I wish I would have known, because I would have stopped it right away if we classified it in the wrong way." She just about 20 minutes ago sent me a PDF, and on page 45, it does say that T-shirts are not novelty items. It was the last item listed there. So we were trying to be as painstakingly to follow the law as possible. We had everything from billboards to stickers and magnets and print and radio. For a little school board campaign, we tried to do as much as we could, and we did have authorized and paid for on everything there. And I will just throw myself at the mercy of the board here, because this is definitely something that was missed. And as a first time candidate, I tried to do everything right, and obviously did not do everything right. So I would say that my presentation probably is moot, because as you guys just said, Governor Youngkin did have to pay and did get those updated and fixed. Not the one that I had, and the Bob Good one also not the one that I had. But if this gentleman would have reached out to me, or if I would have gotten a complaint earlier, we would have ceased and we would have updated those right away. And I guess that's all I could really say. I know the person who had made this complaint was a supporter of my opponent, and that's fine. This is a free country. You're allowed to do that. But, we recognize some things on the other side, and we would have called it out to them as a sign of respect. But we are where we are. And like I said, I apologize. It will not happen again. But it's something we missed. And it's obviously, I just got it right now and 20 minutes ago. So it's fairly black and white. So I apologize. And like I said, I just asked for some some leniency here. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniels. Do members of the board have any questions of Mr. Daniels? If not, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move subject to the board authority under Code of Virginia, Section 24.2-955.3 to find Chris Daniels in violation of Section 24.32-956, stand by your ad print media disclosure requirements regard to one print media advertisement, assess $25 for the penalty.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we assess a $25 civil penalty on Mr. Daniels for his T-shirt. Will the secretary call the roll?
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Daniels.
Okay. Thank you. And how do I take care of that?
I'll send you something, Mr. Daniels.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next we have up is Friends of Evan Clark. He should be on the phone. He is lacking disclosure on one banner, one newspaper ad, and one sign.
Okay, Mr. Clark, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine.
Great. Okay, I have several pictures I'd like to share with the board, if that's okay.
Do they differ from the material that we have before us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just from a technical standpoint, I just wanted to make sure that we're not trying to see something that we've already seen, but feel free to share.
Just to illustrate, if you're able to see this, are you able to see this picture that's up?
No. Hold on one second.
No.
Let's see.
We're working on it.
It says you're sharing.
Okay.
So this is.
Go ahead.
Are you able to see the red circle around the item that I'm sharing?
We are.
Okay. So that's the newspaper ad. I guess I'm going in reverse order, but anyway, that's the newspaper ad. When I spoke to the salesperson at the newspaper, I made sure that I expressed that they needed to be the disclaimer for the stand by your ad thing. And they said, yes, they would make sure to indicate that it's in this case, they used the verbiage paid political advertisement. Clearly it's my name and it lists the position that I was running for. And it was my understanding that this met the requirements. So that's my statement on the newspaper ad. So do you want to do them one at a time, or should I present the other ones?
Well, why don't we discuss the banner and the sign and proceed from there?
All right, very good. The next one, the yard signs that are in the lower left-hand corner, they're 917. The original batch of yard signs I got in did not have the proper disclosures. So my mother wisely suggested that I just quite simply tape, paid for and authorized by, Friends of Evan Clark. And so that's what I did. In this, the thing that I'm showing you here with the red circle, you can see the little white strip at the bottom. And I can show you, here's another one with the white strip at the bottom. And then finally, here's a whole row of yard signs. Again, the white strip at the bottom. And I can here stop sharing and show you what that looks like in real life. This is the yard sign, and the white strip at the bottom, it just says paid for and authorized by Friends of Evan Clark. So as soon as I realized when I got this shipment in of yard signs, it wasn't correct. I corrected it immediately and made sure all of those signs were corrected and did have the proper disclosure.
Okay. Do members have any questions of Mr. Clark?
And then the last one is the banner. The original banner that you see in the 7:30 photo on the upper left, and then the 9:24 photo in the upper right. I mean, again, I would ask for the mercy of the board that that sign does not have the proper disclosure. The sign that you see in the picture that's currently being shared, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, you can clearly see paid for and authorized by Friends of Evan Clark. That small in the lower right-hand corner. And then if you look at the yard sign that was offered at the same campaign event, you can see again the proper disclosure right here in the very lower right-hand corner, the little white, campaign paid for and authorized by Evan Clark. So again, as soon as I was made aware of any of the issues, I very quickly corrected these things and made sure that the proper disclosures were made.
Thank you. Members have any questions of Mr. Clark?
My only question is anytime I see re-elect, they ought to know about it. They've been through this one time and they ought to know. So whoever's doing their printing, whoever's doing their campaign material, they ought to know. So that's my only comment. I think they ought to know.
I think that's a fair statement. I can tell you that my first campaign was 16 years ago, and I had a very experienced campaign staff from a very well organized party machine at that point. This campaign was run by me, myself, and I did not have anybody helping me. And this was absolutely an oversight on my part. The two elections in between those 16 years, I did not have an opponent and did not put out any type of print media. So in a way of thinking, this is actually my first go round managing the campaign, because I did have a very experienced campaign manager that was very familiar with all the requirements for filing and doing the financial reporting and making sure that the campaign disclosures were all on the any type of advertising. So in that way of thinking, this is the first time I had certainly managed this all by myself.
Should have held on to the campaign manager.
I really wish I could have. He's unfortunately deceased.
Sorry. All right. Members have additional questions of Mr. Clark. Ms. Alexander, did you have something to?
Yes, so the paid political advertisement is a requirement by the publisher of the paper themselves. He still needs the disclosure that says paid for by and the rest of his information there.
Got it. All right.
Thank you.
Additional comments, questions? If not, do I hear a motion on this matter?
Chairman, I move subject to the board's authority under the Code of Virginia 24.2-955.3 to fine Evan Clark in violation of 24.32-956 stand by your ad print media and disclosure requirements with regard to 3 print media advertisements and assess of $25 civil penalty.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we assess a $25 civil penalty for Mr. Clark's material. Additional comments, questions? If not, Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I'd also like to apologize to the board too. I did this late last night during the filing deadline, and we have a typo. It's not supposed to be 24.32. It's 24.2. That I cut and pasted from the wrong section.
That's forgiven at midnight. Okay, next.
All right. Next, we have Jackson Perono. Mr. Jackson has appeared before the board. This would be his third time if he's with us on the phone. His first time was when we were doing SBYA, I believe, at that time when he there. So he has been exposed to SBYA. He also came before us at our last SBYA meeting as a defendant. He said his issue was he was a first-time candidate and he didn't know. So this would be technically his third time before the board, but his second time before SBYA. His issue is the authorized by candidate on the bottom of his sign instead of the required paid for or paid for and authorized by with the name of his committee or his name. So it's an inadequate disclosure.
Okay.
And again, as I said last night at midnight, the relevant facts are 1 yard sign, not 1 video.
Got it. Okay. Mr. Jackson, are you on the line? I'm hesitant to proceed. Did he indicate that he was going to?
I've heard nothing from him.
All right.
Mr. Chair. Yes. I have a question on this one.
Yes.
Because I remember last year, we had
The Virginia Beach
situation
Lake.
in Virginia Beach. We had 5 candidates, had 1 ad, and paid by the candidate. Didn't say any of the candidates' name. We allow that,
Yes.
So, is it the same situation as the other one?
One could say it was the same situation, but again, like I said, Mr. Jackson has been with us before during SBYA presentations, so he was aware of what the actual guidelines were. But as you said, on August 3rd, 2021, you had the Virginia Beach slate.
Yeah. That's a precedent.
All right.
True.
I remember that because I figured anybody that had any half common sense could figure out who was paying for because it said the candidate.
Right.
Right. Okay, additional comments or questions?
None. None. I don't have any stuff for you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on this matter?
My motion to pass. It's just, since we did allow, one incident to have the candidate with pictures and being the authorized, then we should do the same thing here.
You made that a motion? Yeah, okay. I second that.
All right. So you're moving to dismiss? All right. It's been moved and seconded that the board dismiss the complaint against Mr. Jackson. Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. James.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Joiner for council.
Yes, sir. I believe Ms. Joyner is with us today. She has one sign that has no disclosure on it.
Okay, did you receive all the?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay.
Oh, well, yes, we're going to hand me back. There's one
Yes,
for you
sir.
guys.
My name is Rita Joyner, and thank you all very much for hearing my support for, your consideration. I did not proof the sign. I didn't know it was going up. It was put in Chesterfield County. A gentleman by the name of Jim Enix put it up. And I saw the sign once going in, it's 55, 60 miles an hour. You're running down Route 10 right before you get to the bridge. So it was in Chesterfield County. So I saw it, and I thought, there's not even Ward 1. I ran for Ward 1. It just says Rita Joyner for Hopewell City Council. And so I just noticed that it wasn't for Ward 1. On the 17th of October, I went to a Democrat candidate forum, and my opponent, Debbie Randolph, said, "Are you aware that you have a sign that's in violation?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, this sign doesn't have, your disclosure, your disclaimer on it." And I said, "No." I said, "I'm so sorry." And I told her, I said, I didn't do that sign. Someone else put it up. So, I couldn't sleep that night. So the next morning at 5 o'clock, and I got the emails where I sent the emails to Mr. Enix at like 5 in the morning. I'm like, this sign, you didn't put the disclaimer on it, and it's got to have the disclaimer. So I didn't hear from him. I went out, and it's, it's heavy traffic, so you're taking your life in your hands to get out there. But I went out there and I saw, well, I can see where it can put underneath. I said, can you put a stencil? Can you do a stencil or something then? So then as I thought more about it, I said, no, there's no time for that. It just needs to be printed in, with a Sharpie. So I went out there, and at around 9 o'clock that morning,
the morning after I found out that it was a problem, I wrote in the lettering, and I think there's a picture of what I, what I took. And that's the end of the story. I truly had, this guy put it up, I did not know when it was going up or anything like that, and that's where it's at. Now, I would have this guy, this gentleman is 94 years old, okay? He fell before Christmas, and he has heart issues. I didn't want to call him and tell him that this was happening. I think he would have been happy to be here or to call in or something, but I just, it just didn't, I didn't want to stress him out, honestly. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm asking for your leniency in this matter. And it is my first time, and I am my own campaign manager, but I did win.
Duly noted, although that doesn't enter into our consideration. All right, do members have additional questions of Ms. Joyner or Ms. Alexander on this matter?
Was this the only sign?
That's the only sign that
This is
I
the only
received.
sign
There was one other one that he was on the other side of Route 10, that when I freaked out, I went over there to his office, and I couldn't reach it. It was up too high, and I said, I called him, I said, you've got to get your guys to put it up there, so they did write the same thing in. But there were two signs. He put one on either side of Route 10.
But I only got complaints for one.
Yeah.
All right, additional questions, comments?
I have a question. Yes. How do you handle people that have no relationship to the candidate to put signs out? What do we do with it?
Well, it all depends. It sounds like Ms. Joyner did have some relationship with this one. Sometimes you do have people who just put a sign up. And depending on how much they spent to advertise, they may have an independent expenditure that they have to claim, but they also have to have disclosure as well.
Right. I'm saying that someone just go out
volunteers.
For the sign.
Oh, yeah.
For a sign, nothing to, what do we do? It's not authorized by the candidate.
It depends, because, all right, say someone went out and put out a bunch of signs for Tammy for treasurer. And they just went out because they just thought I'd be great at it.
Right.
They didn't put disclosure on, and then I drug me before you and said, hey, you got a bunch of signs out, Tammy, that you did not disclose. I would say, these aren't my signs, I didn't do this, these were not the people. So then, I would then, as me working here at Elect, I would then try to find the person who put out the signs if that were possible. And then those people come in.
I did want to point out, I don't know if I did take a photograph of any of the campaign materials that I was responsible for.
Yes, she has excellent disclosure on everything.
Everything that I did, I had disclosure on. So this was definitely, I feel very badly about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I there again, I think she's sincere, and I think this gentleman just, ignorance is no excuse for the law.
No.
But I think we just need to dismiss this case. I move that we dismiss the case.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we dismiss this incident. I don't want to call it a case. But in any event, will the secretary call the roll?
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Joyner. Okay, Lee Carley for school board.
Yes, sir. Much in the same thing. It's one banner on someone's front yard. I don't know if Miss Carley is with us or not on the line.
I'm here.
Hi.
Ms. Carley,
Hi.
we can hear you.
Okay, can you see me? I don't know if you need to see me. So I'm actually in almost the exact same boat as the person who went prior to me. This was a banner designed by a community member. I did not authorize it or design it or encourage it. So it was just placed, and I did not pay for it. It was not part of my campaign. I am a first time, never run for office before, and was managing my own campaign. So I honestly didn't think anything of the sign not having anything on there.
Okay, do the members have any questions of Ms. Carley?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Carley, were you made aware of the banner?
I did know that the banner was there, yes. It was,
And you
I
knew
didn't know. Sorry.
Or you knew it didn't have the language, required
I
language?
didn't know that it needed the language. I had honestly just seen it driving. It was on my commute home from work that I saw it. So I just assumed that somebody was trying to be helpful and didn't think about it.
I have a question. Did you try to find out who put it up for you?
Yeah, there was a woman named Katie. She messaged me and told me she had done it.
Would you say again, please?
Well, it was a community member named Katie Kerr Hobart. She had messaged me and let me know that she had done it, yes.
Thank you. Members have additional questions of Ms. Carley? Do I hear a motion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to change my recommendation, since she is not behind the sign, that you would also dismiss this one as well.
Okay, do I hear a motion on this matter?
I didn't hear what you said.
Since she is not behind the sign and she did not purchase it, this was put up, someone wanted to support her, I would suggest you dismiss this one.
Only thing is, she didn't try to correct it.
Right. But it's not her sign to correct. This was a sign that was on private property, put up by the homeowner. She said she became aware of it when she drove by it.
So if signs on private property.
Right, in the situation that we were discussing earlier, again, say it's me. Somebody wants to me to be treasurer, so they put a sign in their front yard, but I had nothing to do with it. That's freedom of speech. They can go ahead and put that sign up in their yard, and that should not be held against the candidate because she was not aware of this.
So how do we know it's in the yard?
Based on her testimony and the complaint that came in, said it was on a private property in there, someone's yard.
Okay, that.
Mr. Chairman, in light of that, I would move that we dismiss this, and I would comment, if you don't, you might want to get a second first. And I'll
Yeah,
comment.
let me get a second. Is there a second to Delegate Merrick's motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
And my comment is that the difference in this one and the last one was she made an effort to put the language on it. This lady did not make the effort to put, but it's on private property, and she had no,
But the difference is too that she was aware of her sign. This lady was not aware of her sign,
Well, she was aware when she saw it.
but it still wasn't her sign.
I know.
Now, yeah.
That's fine. My motion still stands.
All right. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we dismiss this complaint.
I think Dr. O'Bannon had something to say.
I'm sorry?
Dr. O'Bannon had something to say.
Oh, Dr. O'Bannon?
May I ask Ms. Alexander something?
Yes.
Sure. Are these decisions that we make appealable?
Appealable.
Yes, sir, yes.
So the only reason I ask is that it's important for us to be internally consistent. And so I support this motion.
All right. Additional questions, comments? If not, the Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion to dismiss passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Next one is Mr. Michael Storrs. Mr. Michael Storrs is with us today. He has one undisclosed sign.
Mr. Storrs, great dog.
Yes. with my campaign, I put out 3,000 flyers, which all had paid for. T-shirts, flyers, everything had paid for by Michael Stores, including the bank account. In my first, in running, I was so enamored by the posters that when I got them back from the printers, I didn't see that the paid for portion of it was truncated off. So that same day, I got them, I put them out. It was brought to my attention that same day that paid for was not on them. So I went and printed out labels on what was left. I think maybe 24 out of the 50 that was left, and stuck them on both sides to rectify the problem that same day. But unfortunately, someone had saw it and took a picture of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Storrs. Members have questions or comments of Mr. Storrs? Okay. Do I hear a motion on this matter then?
I move subject to the board's authority on the Code of Virginia, section 24.2-955.3, to find Michael Store in violation of section 24.2-956, stand by your air print media disclosure requirement with regard to one print media advertisement and assess a $25 civil penalty.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board assess a $25 civil penalty in this matter. Additional comments, questions? If not, Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Next is Monica for City Council.
Yes, she has one undisclosed website. And when these complaints come in, I go to the website immediately to go through to make sure no one has cut anything off or just skipped out. Because I've had people send in complaints and they cut off the disclosure. I looked on every single page. She had no disclosure anywhere.
Okay, is Ms. Robinson with us either in person or on the line?
Yes, sir.
She's on the line.
Okay, let's get you turned up a little bit so we can hear you.
Can you hear me any better?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Throat is a little scratchy. I'm recovering from COVID, but thank you guys for listening to me today. I actually, first time running for office, and had an intern that was working with me, and together we maneuvered our way through the campaign. And until I received the notice in the mail, I didn't even have a clue that it wasn't on there. No clue at all. And I looked at it 100 times with her. We edited it, and I guess it just didn't even occur to me that I just assumed for some reason that it was on there. And I attended the training with Tammy, so I knew what the guidelines were. But honestly, somehow it just slipped past me. I don't even have any excuses. Just that I just didn't know.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Do the members have any questions of Ms. Robinson? All right, in that event, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move subject to the board's authority under the Code of Virginia 24.2-955.3 to find Monica Robinson in violation of 24.2-956, stand by your ad print media disclosure requirements with regard to one website and assess a $25 civil penalty.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board assess a $25 civil penalty. Additional comments or questions? If not, Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Okay, Ms.
Our
Alexander?
next one is Roanoke Forward PAC. This is an inadequate or no disclosure. For the first one, they have one ad, a newspaper ad, and one is a billboard where they put paid for and authorized by Roanoke Forward PAC. What they're missing is the authorization by the candidates as well. That's not on here. So if we want to go back to Virginia, it has no picture or anything like that of these candidates. And then with an addition of a white sample ballot with the electoral board disclosure statement still on it, instead of the statement itself tells you you have to remove the electoral board statement, which they did not. So that's the complaint we have here. The one ad, one billboard, and one sample ballot. Their website, which was also part of the complaint, does have authorization on it, so that is not in the total.
Okay. Is there a representative of Roanoke Forward who wishes to be heard on this matter?
Yes, sir. This is Charlie Nave. I've been engaged to speak on their behalf. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Is it Mays, M-A-Y-S?
No, it's Nave, N-A-V-E, November, Alpha, Victor, Echo.
Got it.
I have 8 brief points to make. First of all, Roanoke Forward, nobody involved in Roanoke Forward has ever been involved in a campaign before. They don't have experience with campaigns, PACs, or complying with election law. Number 2, Roanoke Forward had no intention to mislead, only the intention to tell the truth. And we're curious to know if anyone was confused as to who was sponsoring these ads. Number 3, in fact, they sought legal guidance about their ads and the disclosure, and this disclosure in particular paid for and authorized by Roanoke Forward PAC. They contacted the attorney for the Republican Party of Virginia, who did not give them any reason to believe that their disclosure was inadequate. And that's what they did. That's what the legwork they did before moving forward with printing the ads. Number 4, the disclosure said that only the PAC authorized the ads, so there doesn't seem to be any indication that the candidate had done so. Number 5, similar to the case you just adjudicated, Jackson, for Roanoke, this complaint was filed by the son of one of the candidates that was elected for city council. This was filed by a campaign adversary. And a few other points, just to give you some context. A local Democrat in Roanoke, Peter Volosson, was fined by the State Board of Elections $50 after y'all received 11 complaints about a no disclosure on his sample ballot. He ended up winning he was one of 3 candidates nominated in the Democrat primary out of a field of 4. He came in 3rd place. It's arguable that those sample ballots did play a role in his victory to the nomination. Number 7, I'd point out that Roanoke Forward has certainly learned from this experience and will not repeat this mistake again. They were unaware that they were violating the law and are going to include the not authorized by a candidate disclosure on any ads going forward if they participate in future campaign cycles. And what they're going to be paying me is going to be substantially larger than anything you've fined anyone today. And finally, just to be consistent with your decisions so far today, I'll note that you all have been dismissing cases against parties who have had the wrong disclosure and knew the rules, or even no disclosure. But I think this case is even more benign than that, because Roanoke Forward made best efforts to comply with the law, sought out legal counsel, and just turned out it didn't work out properly. They would very much appreciate it if this case was dismissed as well, along with the others that were filed against folks who had little to no knowledge of the rules and little to no experience in running campaigns.
Thank you. Do members have any questions of?
I have a question.
This
is
not a
first violation, Dan? This is a first violation, but that first violation, to reduce it down to $25, it has to be unanimous and it has no harm to the public. I argue that you do have harm to the public by putting up a sample ballot saying these, with the marked candidates, that it's approved by the electoral board when it is not.
Thank you.
Tammy, does the ad and the billboard have the paid for and authorized by forward PAC? Right?
Yes, sir, they do.
But
they have the name of the PAC on it, correct. They're supposed to also have not authorized by any candidate.
Right.
So it's an incomplete disclosure on those.
Right. So they got some wrong information from.
They got close, yes.
May I add something?
Certainly.
With regard to the sample ballot, I believe that was not actually a web page, that was an email. And it went out to a very limited email list so that the damage to the public would be limited by the size of that email list.
I went to the website. It was on the website.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? All right, so Ms. Alexander, you said that this isn't being recommended to be reduced to $25.
Not to the 25, no, sir. But you can reduce these numbers you have here. Sample ballot was within 14 days of election. That's why it's up at the $100 level instead of the $50.
All right, do I hear a motion on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I move subject to the Board Authority on the Code of Virginia, Section 24.2-955.3, to find Roanoke Forward in violation of Section 24.2-956. Stand by your ad. Disclosure requirements with regards to 3 print media advertisement and assess a $200 civil penalty.
It's been moved that the board assess a $200 civil penalty in this matter. Is there a second? In the absence of a second, board takes no action.
All right, our next one is vote for Maddie for Ward 4. This is Maddie Rodriguez. She has one banner that was not disclosed.
Just out of curiosity, where is Ward 4?
That's a good question. She also has a letter that was sent in saying that, I got one this morning, that's saying that she was a first-time candidate, was not aware, and this sign was posted, so.
Okay.
Hopefully we have someone, do we have someone on the line?
Is Ms. Rodriguez or representative on the line?
This is Maddie.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Can hear
Sorry
you.
about that.
No problem.
Okay. Yes, this is my first time running. I was a brand new candidate. I was appointed to City Council. Ward 4 is in Winchester, Virginia. And so I was appointed to City Council unanimously December of 2021 because a sudden opening due to a death on council. So I was appointed as the first Latina. Unfortunately, not like the others have reported, I did not win this election, but that didn't taint my desire to keep moving forward. I ran this campaign new to the whole politics. And so I was not aware in June when I received an opportunity to support my community, to support literacy volunteers and the rescue mission by having my name out at an event, and they were going to create a banner for me. So they created the banner. I provided a picture. I provided some info. They created the banner and exposed that banner on the 30th of July. Up until that point, I had not put any other materials out, so I had not created any flyers, any yard signs, nor my mailers had been done, so I didn't have anything else out there. The sign was sent to me to proof. It looked great to me, so they put it out that day. Then I did not use that banner anymore. So it was to my surprise on the 31st of December when I received the certified letter, when I learned that it didn't have the disclosure on it, because I did not know it didn't have it on there. So that's pretty much all I have to share.
Okay. Thank you. Do the members have any questions of Ms. Rodriguez? If not, do I hear a motion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I move subject to the board's authority on the Code of Virginia 24.2-955.3 to find Amanda Rodriguez in violation of 24.2-956, stand by your ad print media disclosure requirements with regard to one print media advertisement and assess a $25 civil penalty.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board assess a $25 civil penalty in this matter. Any additional comments or questions? If not, the Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merritt. Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And finally, we have Rick Nagel for City Council, TV and video.
Yes, sir. This one, this is a video that needs to have paid for by, in this case, Rick Nagel, or authorized by Rick Nagel, and 20 scan lines running across the video itself with them unobscured. And the video that has been provided does not have that. I have watched it numerous times to make sure I haven't missed anything. You have expressed advocacy for his election at the 2-minute, 13-second mark. I've also included the section of the code for this one. Mr. Nagel, in his defense, he shows a Rick Nagel for Harrisonburg City Council with sponsored by and paid for by Rick Nagel. That's on the Facebook page. It's not on the video itself, which the law says it has to, or the code says it has to be on the video itself with the 20 scan lines with him alone on the screen. And that's what he's lacking here. And his argument also is, too, that it was not part of a contribution, but you can see also, I don't know if I've given that with you, he has sent a picture from his Facebook ad page where he does have a dollar amount, so there was money spent.
All right. Is Mr. Nagel or his representative on the line?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Nagel.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate your time. Ms. Alexander obviously received my response. You know, I do believe I was in compliance with the paid for by ad on the video. And it's my interpretation of one of the code sections that if it is a video and it's not paid for, then it doesn't trigger that particular code section. That being said, I did run for office before in 2014. So I'm a second-time candidate, and my campaign manager was very inexperienced, but I thought I was in, well, I think I am in compliance with the paid for structure there on the Facebook ad.
Okay. Does the board have any questions of Mr. Nagel? If not, do I hear a motion on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I move subject to the board's authority on the Code of Virginia, Section 24.2-955.3 to find Rick Nagel in violation of Section 24.2-955.1, stand by your air television, the video disclosure requirements with regard to one video advertisement, and assess a $25 civil penalty.
It's been moved that the board assess $25 civil penalty. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions?
Yes, hi. My name is, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
My name is Renee Dow. I was actually first, but I've stayed on the call. I would like to go ahead and just plead my case, if you may.
She was first.
I was the very first one, Renee Dial.
Oh, all right. Okay. But yeah, we have a motion pending.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, correct? All right, Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Nagel. All right.
Guess we're going back to Ms. Dial.
Okay, Ms. Dial at the beginning?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Dial?
Yes,
Can you hear
sir.
us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
So, kind of hearing some of the other cases, I was also a first-time campaign. I never been an elected official. I got appointed to the Alawite County School Board in September of 2021, but I never had to go through the process. And then I didn't really have a lot of confidence in our registrar's office because they had some stuff had happened with our campaigns and putting our petitions in. And so they gave bad information then. And so I did not know about the sample ballots not having a disclosure on there. And the reason why I mentioned the color was that the poll people that were outside, and I have witnesses on the line as well, I wasn't even able to pass them out. They stopped us and said that they were the wrong color. So that's why I had brought up the color. They said that I couldn't pass them out. And in regards to the yard signs, I had gotten 2 batches of my yard signs. One, and I sent you guys an email that had disclosures on all of my signs. I went back, I had the first batch had all the disclosures on there. And then when I saw some didn't, I taped on disclosures on all the ones that did not have it. And so I did have, now for that particular one, the person that filed the complaint actually is on the opponent side and had harassed me for the past year. So I don't know if it was taken off or so forth, but I did put disclosures on online. I do have flyers. I had flyers. I didn't send you guys an email, but everything that I had disclosures on except for the sample ballot. I did not know. I figured since I didn't make it, I didn't know that it had to have a disclosure. I just assumed that if you make something, then you had to put that disclosure on there. I did fund my own campaign. I did not receive any campaign funds or anything from anybody else. I funded my whole entire campaign.
Thank you, Ms. Dial. Do the members have any questions? If not, do I hear a motion on this matter?
Yes, sir.
Tammy. So this is the first violation?
This is her first violation, but that first violation, to reduce it down to $25, there has to be no harm done to the public. But her violation is for leaving the authorization by the electoral board on there. So it looks like the electoral board is endorsing her candidacy here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the sign, she's saying she had.
Yes, I received probably about 8 or 9 pictures of signs.
That had it? That didn't?
This is the only one that didn't have it. This was the one for the complaint.
Okay. Chairman.
Delegate Merrick.
I move subject to the board's authority under the Code of Virginia 24.2-9.5.3, time Renee Dow in violation of 24.2-9.6, stand by your ad print media disclosure requirement with regard to, and I want to make it the ballot, so that'd be the one print. The one print media advertisement and assess a $100 penalty for the sample ballot, being it was within 14 days of the election.
All right, it's been moved that the board assess a $100 civil penalty. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? If not, Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Does that mean that we've come to the end of Stand By Your Ad?
We have come to the end, and Dr. O'Bannon missed it in person with a little old well. I thank you so much, and I'm going to miss you guys.
Okay.
So, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Alexander. All right, before we go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman? May I make a point of privilege?
You may.
I would like to read something from the board and the Department of Elections. Whereas Robert H. Bob Brink service to the Commonwealth as chairman of the Virginia State Board of Elections will end in January 2023. Whereas Chairman Brink has a distinguished record as the delegate of the 48th District in the Virginia General Assembly, as the Deputy Commissioner for the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and as a Senior Legislative Advisor to Governor Terrence R. McAuliffe. Whereas since 2019, Chairman Brink has chaired the Virginia State Board of Elections with unmatched professionalism, abundant grace, and unwavering leadership. Whereas in that position, Chairman Brink guided the Virginia State Board of Elections through the challenge of adapting to changes in election processes due to a global public health emergency. Whereas seeing the need for a cohesive and focused source of study and recommendations regarding the electoral process, Chairman Brink saw the establishment of the Advisory Review Work Group, which provides valuable input to the State Board of Elections from the Virginia elections community and the public. Whereas recognizing the public's need to be heard regarding the electoral process, Chairman Brink gave every opportunity for the public to be heard both during meetings and through the exchange letters sent from his desk. Whereas through changes within the Office of Virginia Governor, the Virginia General Assembly, and the Court of Public Opinion, Chairman Brink has been a fair and balanced voice on the State Board of Elections during trying times. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the State Board of Elections commends Robert H. Brink for his steadfast guidance of the Virginia State Board of Elections and thanks him for his service to the board, the department, the Virginia elections community, the Code of Virginia, the United States and Virginia constitutions, and the Commonwealth adopted this 18th day of January 2023.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we dismiss this resolution to Chairman Brink.
And I say.
Well,
I will call the roll.
Then he gets a copy, but he's already got one.
Yeah, all right. All right.
Right there.
Well, I want to thank you. As noted, this is my final meeting as chairman of the state board.
We still have to vote.
All right. Do you want to vote now?
Go ahead and vote. Go ahead.
All right. Call the roll.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Chang. Aye. Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long. Aye.
I abstain. All right.
Bob, it's John.
Dr. O'Bannon.
I just want to tell you how much I have appreciated many years working with you. You are even-handed. You have had a great run good meetings, and more importantly, you have driven the car right down the middle of the road. You have taken difficult votes, and I'm sure that there is a place in heaven for you for what you've done for Virginia.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate this. As noted, this is my final meeting as chairman of the state board. I'm also winding up 25 years around Capitol Square, and I think that of all the things I've done over the past quarter century, which includes a number of years up the hill as a delegate and in the governor's office and here, my work on this board has been the most consequential. I'm proud to have played a role in promoting an efficient, accessible, secure, and transparent election system in the Commonwealth. Over the past 4 years, through a global pandemic and major changes in the election process. And the Commonwealth's election community has shown incredible resilience and dedication to the job. Credit for this achievement goes first to the 133 local election operations where elections actually happen, and second to the hardworking staff of the department. Both Chris Piper and his successor, Commissioner Beals, have been outstanding, nonpartisan administrators who've run elect even-handedly and professionally, and they've been a pleasure to work with. So I want to thank the department as well as my fellow board members. It's been an honor and a pleasure to hold this gavel for the past 4 years, and I deeply appreciate this. Thank you. Now, we still have some business to finish up before we go. So do members of the public wish to be heard on items not on today's agenda?
First, I have Kenny.
Ann Kinney? Ms. Kinney, can you hear us?
I'm here.
Oh, Ms. Kinney, you can certainly hear us.
Good afternoon, I'm Ann Kinney from Charles City County. Last month, I came to the meeting representing the citizens of Charles City County, and we presented the issue of our voting machine being left unsecured during the November 22nd election, and I asked for your help and guidance in order to make sure that the situation never happened again in our county. We didn't hear from any of you. We did not get directed to anyone else. We have no knowledge that the issue has been handled. We are once again asking for help and guidance. We are currently in the process of voting in the special election. Therefore, there is urgency in making sure the issue is resolved.
Thank you, Ms. Kinney. Irene Churns with us?
Yes. I will continue from Charles City. My name is Irene Churns. And what I did is I just made bullet points of all the problems we had in the 2020 general election last year. The poll watchers were instructed to sit too far to hear or see the voters stating their names and address. And that's, I list the code here. In precinct 2, the poll watchers were placed 8 feet across the worker who was checking in the vote.
We're doing a lot with election integrity. In fact, we got a couple up there.
Extremely difficult to hear. When the 2 poll watchers complained and asked to be placed closer, both were denied. In fact, they were yelled at, sit down. Another one is voting machines were left unattended for a few minutes during their early voting, because that is at least 3 times that was observed. Only one person working at an early voting precinct approximately 1 hour at one time, and that was October 12th. In addition, 2 different poll watchers noticed that the staff were not in the office, and only one person, an election officer, was working the early voting process. Another one is the voting machines were open and unsecured. lack of chain of custody. Only one person went to retrieve the absentee ballots from the drop box. There should be two. And another one is in one precinct where generally more Republicans vote. The election officer found 2 extra thumb drives. I don't know what for, but there were 2 extra ones. Poll watcher, and in that precinct, Leon had 100 votes more. So whatever they were trying to do, they probably didn't, I assume, but there were a lot of Republicans voting in that precinct. That's in Charles City. The next one is poll watcher was told that she was not allowed to observe the canvas. So the canvas was never observed, only at the end when they signed everything. Then the next one is the list of election officers, which includes their work assignment on election day, was provided 1 day before the election day. And also, they charged me $5.25 for it. I should have gotten it for free, and I should have gotten it months ahead of time. Electoral Board Committee was not posting the date and location of the meeting. They seem to be posted now. There were other violations that I did not state here because they were reported to the GOP Election Integrity Hotline, and they were resolved. Pardon me?
Can you wind up, please?
Can I go on?
If
Here's one example of 1 day of 3 different violations.
okay, if you can submit that material, that would be good.
My email?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Churns. Is Ann Gregorian on the line?
Yes, I am. Thank you for taking my comment. I had come to comment on a different item, but since my request for an agenda item to update the public on the SAVES program from the commissioner did not appear on this meeting, I would just like to speak briefly to that request. And I won't relitigate what happened with the SAVES program, as everybody's already aware of what has happened since 2013 up to date. However, in the list maintenance report that was just issued recently, I did notice in the report section on this item that it did not seem to be that this program has yet to be implemented, the SAVES program in the list maintenance program. I carefully listened on December 12th as Commissioner Beals briefed the Privileges and Elections Committee on list maintenance actions the elect is undertaking right now. There was not an update regarding the SAVES program and its implementation at that time. So on the 15th of December, I did request that it be added to the agenda because I feel it's important that the public be advised of how this program is being implemented. It was further indicated that in the list maintenance report ending in August that elect would propose to the SBE any necessary additional regulatory action. I've carefully looked at the General Assembly's legislative actions this session and have seen nothing on the elect on the SAVES program being put forth by any legislator. So I will be writing again and hope that you will include on the next agenda a public notice of where we stand with this program and if there are legislation that needs to be enacted to allow forward movement of the SAVES program, that we could advocate for that through our legislator. So again, I'll be submitting another request for an agenda item, and I hope next board meeting that you will see fit to include it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gregorian. Is Michael Eppard on the line? All right. Chris Rowland, I believe.
Yes, sir, can you hear me?
Yes. Will you identify yourself, please?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Chris Rowland, and I'm in Loudoun County, Virginia. I'm here to speak today to request the State Board of Elections launch an investigation into the activities of General Registrar of Loudoun County, Mrs. Judy Brown, and the Assistant General Registrar of Loudoun County, Mr. Richard Keach. I emailed this board 14 complaints to investigate yesterday. This is the 15th, and I'm delivering it directly to you. Cast vote records, CVRs, were introduced into the voting system certification standard in 2019 by this government body. While CVRs are associated with ballot images, FOIA requests by data scientists for this type of data do not contain images or voter identifiable data and should be available for free and without consequence. Most, if not all, election systems store CVR data as log files, as I will demonstrate. On September 22nd, 2022, I submitted a FOIA request for the CVR data used in 2021 and was assigned request number R0119091-082122. The labor for this request was $440, and I was given multiple password-protected PDF files, a format I did not ask for, nor was this labor performed by Mrs. Judy Brown justified. On September 25th, 2022, I submitted a FOIA request for all records in the Unison CVR data path in native format and was assigned request number R011-460-092622. This cost nothing and contained the same CVR records as the original request in native file format. On September 30th, 2022, I submitted a FOIA request for all log files created by the Unison Cast Vote Record application and was assigned request number R011-461-092622. The log files show the CVR records I was requesting were originally created on March 23rd, 2022. On October 17th, 2022, I submitted a FOIA request to identify who assigned the cost to my original CVR request and was assigned request number R011-619-101722. It shows Mr. Richard Keach assigning the cost of $440. My experience is not unique, nor is the problem an isolated one. This is happening throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. This board needs to mandate a change through ELECT to ingest, but not tabulate, data from scanners and provide CVR logs for free to enhance the integrity of our elections. When two people work together, some call that teamwork. Others call it conspiracy. When you charge more for goods than you should, some call that theft. Others call it fraud or voter intimidation. Any way you look at this, it's a problem, and I respectfully demand that this board fixes it. You have my contact information, and I will be submitting this to you via email.
Thank you, Mr. Rowland. Is Ned Jones on the line?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I'd like to talk about our arrangement, Virginia's arrangement with the Electronic Registration Information Center, better known, and I'll refer to as ERIC. ERIC was formed to clean up the voter rolls in the states that signed contracts with them. And the only thing that's happened since ERIC is the voter rolls have gotten disgracefully worse, including Virginia. The other thing that happened with ERIC, they are now sharing personal information with other third-party organizations. They call these voters, citizens, or some are even non-citizens, EBUs, eligible but unregistered individuals. And the Department of Elections recognizes that there's a problem with our voter rolls because on December 9th of 2022, under the name of Andrea Gaines, a news release went out that Virginia this year, 2023, is undergoing an internal audit of the list maintenance procedures and performing certain tasks to clean up the voter rolls, removing felons, matching voter registrations with Social Security, Bureau of Vital Statistics, removing dead voters. And for the first time, ELECT is going to do the U.S. National Change of Address mailings twice this year instead of the usual once. And what that does, it finds voters who have filed a change of address. Now, this document is extremely helpful, and I give all the credit in the world to ELECT for taking on this enormous task. But you know what about this letter? It does not mention ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, once. So Virginia is able to clean up its voter rolls or make a valiant, robust attempt without ERIC involved at all. And I urge you as a board and the department to terminate our agreement with ERIC because it hasn't cleaned up the voter rolls. It's releasing personal information to other organizations. And like Alabama and Louisiana, who have recently terminated their contract, and many other states are looking for the path out, I urge you to do the same thing for Virginia. We can maintain our own voter rolls. This document proves it. Ms. Beals and her people can do it. We don't need Eric's intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other member of the public wish to be heard on a non-agenda item?
Shelley Overlander.
Ms. Overlander?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to make an extension from something that was discussed, and I want to ask for a call to action by this board. The batch comparison method for risk limiting audits has been recommended at the last 3 State Board of Elections meeting. This is not a legislation issue that needs to be fixed. It's a policy issue that this board can remedy. And so you got a lot of good information from your own agenda, today's agenda about risk limiting audits and the batch comparison method. So could an action be taken by the board, please, on this? Could one of you members motion to allow a pilot program for the batch comparison method and a report to follow, and then a vote to include the batch comparison method as an option for Virginia's risk limiting audits? I believe this will increase voter confidence, and it's something that we'd like to see action taken on.
Thank you, Ms. Overlander. Any additional members of the public wish to be heard?
Howard Hempinius.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
He's on mute.
Makes it difficult to hear him.
Mr. Chairman, we can reach out to him and ask.
Can I try again? Oh, that didn't work. My apologies.
He's on using 2 lines.
I'm sorry?
He's on using a phone line and his computer line, so he needs to mute
One of them.
one of them.
Can you do that, please?
I think he has to do it. I think he has to do it.
If we're unable to hear the final speaker, we need to move on with our agenda.
Okay.
All right? All right.
And that is all the public comments.
All right. In that event, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7, I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of discussing pending and threatened litigation in accordance with Section 2.2-3712F. Susan Beals, Commissioner of Election, and Joshua Leap and Travis Andrews of the Office of the Attorney General will attend the closed session because their presence will reasonably aid the board in consideration of the subject of the meeting.
Is there a second to the motion? All right, Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon. Aye. Ms. Chang.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You bet.
Your visits to our meetings have not gone unnoticed. I appreciate everything you've done.
Glad to work with you.
Vice Chair O'Bannon,
Yes, sir.
please stay on the line, okay?
Yep, I see him.
If not.
Chair Williams, thank you so much.
You bet, you bet.
Appreciate your leadership.
I'm being kicked out of here. I was just a volunteer, and, volunteer. I saw that the machine was left unattended during early bird uses, or registrar, inside the registrar.
I do have something for you, too.
Oh, I love these.
I know you do. That's what you.
I love these. Thank you.
You had said that when we were here at the last election.
140 calories per serving.
Don't look at that. Don't look at that.
let's see, 3.5 serving,
Yeah, don't look at
serving size is 3 pieces.
There you go, you're gonna have
Okay,
three pieces at one
so that
time.
breaks it down to under 50. We're fine.
Exactly.
Thank you. This is so nice.
It's just Andy.
No, the resolution is very nice, thank
After
you.
all the times I called you a brink and, that's nothing.
And actually, we have 5 minutes, and he's like, I got 5 more minutes. I said, that's fine, I'm not rushing.
Don't tell John I did that, because he loves
Nobody else
those
in the
too.
office.
What's that?
I said, don't tell John I did that, he loves those too.
And he said,
He will.
okay, now I'm gonna give you the number.
He's gonna,
Number.
I'll pass them on.
she's not here, so you can't.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All for you.
Yeah, it wasn't just one. And the thing is, that what got me was, we started off the year with one of our election board members reporting that security, because we had security issues, and they were just talking about putting the machines in a closet and not locking them. And so it's like, when you already know you've got an issue, you need to make sure you're on target and everything.
If we should get signing.
So,
There you go, that's something we can do.
And I will contact you.
and get more back here for you.
Yeah, give us whatever we need to sign.
We're just moving everybody out so that we can keep, Vice Chair O'Bannon in.
Okay, now, what about,
Oh, no, those were for your folder, I'm sorry.
those- oh,
Yeah,
okay.
those were just for your folder.
This is good to
These
know.
are the ones you actually
this
need
is
to sign.
very good to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you wanna start.
I've been in here only twice, but you did very well.
Okay, thank you.
You wanna start there?
So it's just us, correct? Almost, okay.
You should be able to see on the screen, we're going and stuff.
So us, we got their banner and then.
Okay. Okay, we are ready to come back. All right, do I hear a motion to come out of closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I move to reconvene the meeting in open session and take a roll call vote certifying that to the best of each member's knowledge, only such public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard or discussed by the State Board of Elections.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we reconvene the meeting in open session. Secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Ms. Chang. Aye. Georgia Alvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there any additional business to come before the State Board of Elections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have fun, John.
Wipe that smile off your face.
Oh, could you see it?
Just a little. It's a little too wide.
Thank you all.
It's like a 50-pound weight, just lift it off.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, I don't get to sing anymore. What are you gonna do?
Hear Florida calling.
There it is.
Are you moving?
Are you going to Florida?